Hello, everybody. Today is May 7th, and I am speaking. My name is Len Baer. I'm an advisory board member of Targeted Justice, and today I'm speaking with Ana Toledo, the plaintiff in the historic lawsuit Targeted Justice v. Garland, for which there's now a hashtag on Twitter, TJ v. Garland. And we also have an advisory board member, Ana Neufeld from UK. Let me start with introduction of Ana. She's doing a marvelous job. She has some updates for you, targeted individuals, but also for everybody who cares about the legal situation in the weaponization of government. What's happening to targeted individuals is just a canary in the coal mine. It can happen to anyone, and we will show you how a government agency, specifically the FBI, can put you on the watch list for absolutely doing nothing illegal. And so with that, Ana, please take the microphone and give us the latest update on the
Yes. Thank you, Len, and hi, Ana. Yes, well, the lawsuit that we filed back in January against the FBI, against the director of FBI, against the director of the Terrorist Screening Center, DHS, Mayorkas, and Garland. Garland is being the principal one. Basically, it seeks to remove the plaintiffs from what is called the terrorist screening database, which is supposed to be a law enforcement tool created after 9/11 for the purpose of curtailing terrorism. Now, as years have gone by, the terrorist screening database has become the less numbers it has is of terrorists. It's one audit of the Inspector General of the United States Department of Justice states that 97% of the names in this database do not belong to known or suspected terrorists, belong to just non-investigative subjects, which by definition are people that are not subjected to a criminal investigation of any kind. And being there has huge repercussions from, under the program, which is a targeted individual program. So we got two of our plaintiffs were told, one was told that, she was on a list. And the other one was told that in his house, there was a terrorist living in that house. And so they had to secure the premises before an ambulance could come pick him up from the floor. So that's how we connected the dots. And doing the research as recent as 2 weeks ago, I haven't stopped, even though I filed it in January, and we did a second amendment complaint in February to include additional claims. The important thing is that 2 weeks ago, for example, I found an Inspector General report of 2008-16 saying that FBI field offices send nominations to the terrorist screening database without complying with any regulation of the agency. That means that they don't have to have reasonable suspicion or any derogatory information regarding the person they're putting in that database. Many people are put in there for retaliation purposes, for business competitor purposes. The stories we've heard are just atrocious, from some, innocent neighbor calling the police on a rowdy neighbor to, feuds of divorce feuds, etc. So it could happen to anybody, like you said, anybody. It could happen to anybody with the correct connections to be put in this atrocious list. I don't know if you want me to go into the update of where we are right now, or you have any questions regarding that intro?
Ana, thank you for this introduction. I think what the purpose of this video call is to keep people who follow the suit updated. So I'm hoping we'll do it on a weekly basis. So please tell us what happened within the last week. I know that there was a last-minute filing that just mind-boggling, and I can't wait to hear about it from you, Anna, from the source. So please give us
Well,
an
yeah, last Friday, last week and 2 days ago, we got a motion for extension of time for the government to reply to a motion to compel limited discovery we had filed. You see, the information on the terrorist screening database, even it's what they call sensitive information. They don't tell people that they're on the database. So we were asking, as you know, it's a germane part to our case. Please tell the court, tell us the status of the 18 plaintiffs on the terrorist database. And the government, on a last minute thing last Friday, which because Monday was the deadline, so on Friday they asked for an additional 4 days, which in fact it really was to answer after we have filed our opposition to the motion to dismiss that the government filed, probably so that we wouldn't use that information, you know, in our motion. So they asked for additional time. It's only 18 plaintiffs, and it's a query that they can do in less than 10 minutes. So I submitted an opposition 3 hours later, which I never like to do, but I had to because we have waited too long. You know, the plaintiffs have waited too long, and each day that goes by, they are suffering mercilessly, especially because since the filing of the complaint, the attacks, the DO attacks and the gang stalking and the electronic harassment has gone up, 1,000-fold. So we opposed it, and they didn't file any. It was supposed to be filed. The court didn't grant the extension of time, and it was due on Monday. It wasn't filed until yesterday, which was was it yesterday or actually Thursday afternoon. So it was untimely, and I had filed before them a motion saying, for the court to just adjudicate it in our favor because there was no opposition. One of the good things is that that I'm happy to report, as you know, the motion to dismiss that the government filed was plagued with insulting, derogatory hate speech, saying that these are fantastical allegations, these are conspiracy theories. You cannot get this amount of people together. It's mathematically implausible to get 18 persons to say the same story, and they all happen to be in the TSDB. It's impossible. So they this next filing, they didn't include any of that fantastical and condescending and derogatory vocabulary. So I appreciate it because they're listening. They're listening to what they should be listening, and I just have the hopes that we get an oral argument that I requested by motion on Thursday or yesterday. I don't even know. It's just so many things going on. But I did request an oral argument, and I hope that we get it and we can fill that courtroom with all the TIs that that have these fantastical allegations, so that the world sees that this is a Holocaust occurring in real time. It's a crime against humanity funded by United States Treasury, and that has got to stop. So that's my update. We are now on a waiting game. We have to wait for the judge. She has a lot of work because she has the motion to dismiss, our opposition, the opposition to the preliminary injunction, and then we file an opposition to the, a serve reply saying, look, all we're asking for is very simple. If these people are non-investigative subjects, they have no ties to terrorism. The FBI has admitted that they represent no terrorist threat whatsoever, and that's why they are not screened as such when they go to the airports. There's no harm in removing their names from the list. And there's no harm in removing the names of non-investigative subjects from a terrorist list that they shouldn't have been put there in the first place. So the judge has her hands full right now, and plus the motion to compel that limited discovery that we asked for. So now we have to just wait and see what happens.
Thank you, Anna, for this update. I have just read the filing by the defendant's lawyer, the official the opposition to our motion, and I noticed that instead of using non-investigative subject, they use a different language. Now it's a no-fly, selectee, expanded selectee. They're playing with the language. I understand that non-investigative subject used to be a valid term, and apparently they no longer use it. What do you think about that?
Well, that's one of the false statements that I pointed out to the court in the opposition to the motion to dismiss, because they alleged in the motion to dismiss that we had made up that term, and it's contained in all of the audit reports of the Terrorist Screening Center. And if you do a Google search in 0.39 seconds, you get 22,000 results of non-investigative subjects. So clearly we didn't invent that term. They don't want to acknowledge the non-investigative subject because by definition, a non-investigative subject is somebody who's not subjected to a criminal investigation. And they want to say that everybody in that list has some sort of tie to terrorism, except that we have the FBI saying, no, the USDOJ saying, no, actually, Timothy Grove, which was a former deputy director of the Terrorist Screening Center, saying, no, those people, they're there for other reasons, immigration, whatever. They don't represent a terrorist threat, number one. Number two, the audit reports say some of these people have never been investigated. There's no derogatory information on them. So really, why are they there? They have to be removed. So I think that the reason for not using the term is to not validate our arguments, but that doesn't make them not worthwhile. Do you know what I mean? Just ignoring it doesn't make them go away, because they are in all the papers. Many of the exhibits we have submitted to the court in support of our plea.
Thank you, Anna. One last question. I noticed that the excuse that the defendant's lawyer uses for not disclosing whether people are on the watch list is something they call a law enforcement privilege. I'm not a lawyer, and I heard of attorney-client privilege, and I've heard of doctor, physician-patient privilege, but I never heard of law enforcement privilege. Well, I also heard of white privilege, but I never heard of law enforcement privilege. Please educate us what it is.
Well, I'm not a criminal defense attorney, but I can explain to you, in general terms, there's a precept that in criminal investigations, for example, if you have a source, you want to protect a confidential source. Well, you want to protect that person from being, murdered or whatever. So the law enforcement privilege basically, in the context of criminal investigations, protects that work product of the investigative agencies and the DA that should be protected from disclosure because of the nature of the criminal case. Okay, whether it's the witness, for the reason that the enforcement agency invokes it. In this case, however, this is a civil matter. This is a matter where in prior cases where there have been challenges to the known, which is the no-fly list, and the suspected, which is the selectee list, which is you are asking. I'll explain to you that in a moment. Well, in cases that those have been challenged, particularly the case El Haiti versus Cable, which was a 2019 case, the attorneys were allowed to see the list to corroborate the information. And in fact, in this case, in the prior motion to dismiss, the government said this should only be subject to in-camera review, which means review with the court, in the court with a judge. But now they're not even saying that. Now they they said no, absolutely. So they're saying these people, they're asking petition for redress of grievances in the court under the First Amendment, their right to redress of grievances, but we're not going to give them the evidence to prove their case. That's basically which is like the hugest violation of Fifth Amendment substantive due process. We have, I have as an attorney a duty to prove my clients' claims. Particularly, this is not a criminal investigation. These people are not they are not investigative subjects because you travel freely. Susan Olson travels freely. Winter, they all travel freely without additional screening, which is what happens with the selectee. The no-fly list is the known terrorists. They are not allowed on United States airspace or boarding planes in the United States. So even if it's a plane from, I don't know, from Europe to Japan, wherever, I don't know if they cannot go through United States airspace. That's one. But the selectee list, which is the suspected terrorists, those are the ones that are subjected to additional screening in the airports, and their luggage is searched, and sometimes they miss their flights because they are subjected to interrogation. Those are the two components of the watch list per se. Now, the rest, which is the majority of the people, are non-investigative subjects, and that's what they don't want to mention, because it's innocent people have no business in a terrorist database. It's a purely constitutional matter. And they don't want to touch that, obviously, with a 10-foot pole, because it's very problematic for the government.
I totally agree. This is a matter of constitution. This is a matter of due process. This is so fundamental to our freedoms, and we will be looking forward to your updates, Anna. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And now I would like to introduce Ana Neufeld. She is one of our newly added advisory board members to targeted justice. Anna, with two N's, so Anna with a double N, because we have two Annas here. Please introduce yourself. I thoroughly enjoyed our Twitter conversations and dialogues, but please introduce yourself and tell us what brought you to this point.
Thank you very much, Len, also for hosting this session, which was a little bit of a surprise for me on a short notice, but I'm privileged. So we just talked about the privilege in law enforcement, which is a privilege to crime, literally. My privilege to work with you on your side, being part of this motion. Of course, my passion was in quite a different field, but now my third career is basically in fighting crime, right? So thank you very much. You two are superstars. Len Bear, as an MD, coming with all the evidence and also putting it into wording which is watertight. These are also very careful how we go about presenting and getting the message across. So this is a host of knowledge and scientific foundation. So thank you very much for your work. I very much recommend to everyone, follow Len on Substack and Twitter. This is really a learning curve. And then, of course, our superstar lawyer, Ana Toledo, who even cornered the largest law enforcement law department in the world, which is the DOJ, cornered them, get the hate speech language out, and many, many things which help now to crack this decade-old wall shelter of committing crime in plain sight on really innocent people. All right, so many may not know me. My first career was in banking. My home country is Germany, where I worked from central bank to investment bank in the headquarters in Frankfurt in the Twin Tower. And then my passion was always for learning, so I went back to university. I have 4 university degrees, including 3 postgraduates from the UK, including distinction, many scholarships, grants, got a PhD from a top UK school, and worked for university also. Universities which are, I think, not the worst here in this country. And suddenly there were issues with the neighbor, right? I was never in conflict with the law. In my case, it's also interesting. I was down for jury service in 2020, I was down for jury service, and I also looked into criteria. So in which cases you are appointed or nominated for jury service. And by no means, if you have a criminal record, you wouldn't be appointed for jury service, right? This is a matter of, this goes without saying. So that was 2020, the year when it started, right? It was just a neighbor was stalking and harassment, bad time, right? And then it starts with the microwave attacks all the time. And yeah, it didn't take long until I found the community. And this is, of course, then a game changer when you connect with others. And also on our own, we can't do anything, right? So even with my distinguished career and all the achievements to my name, right, this country is after me. So they let me know that every time I walk out to the road, I don't want to go into details, right? So yeah, I wouldn't have found out about these atrocities if I wouldn't have been affected myself, right? So now I'm here with you and trying to bring to the table what I can put into. So what I would recommend whenever we try to get our voices heard and getting the messages across, we need to ideally use references which are formally accepted. Yeah, of course, we have our community where we can share our day-to-day atrocities and finding support here, there. When it comes to communication, working with media, we need to work with references, and even within the university, right? I mean, the thugs have they are infiltrating. Of course, MK Ultra was run and operated by doctors in universities, right? There you are. So I had quite a bit of communication as well. So what I use, I'm not sure whether I can share slides. Yes. So let me try this. Oh no, it's disabled. Otherwise, I would just put up a list. Not sure whether this is possible. Yeah. Or
Let's see if I can allow.
other than that,
I
yeah.
wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know that you
shouldn't
would
say
be
that.
sharing.
Okay. No worries. Lindberg, we will,
Okay.
Dr. Bear, we will have a series of maybe for another day.
Okay.
So, I mean, we now talked about the legal options we have, right? And so I also I follow along with discussions on Quora and different social media platforms. So, and there are maybe a few misunderstandings. So some people discuss, well, there are only 18 plaintiffs who kicked off this tsunami against DOJ and criminal law enforcement. Where's my name? Where's my case, right? So I would like to encourage everyone. What Ana is doing for us is a groundbreaking motion. She's filing one motion after the other, and I think, Ana, you said this is the most excellent work you have ever done. Yeah. So,
for me, I had never filed a lawsuit where going into the case, most of the pleadings, I already have the evidence for it. Okay, that's what I meant. That 80% of my pleadings, I have the evidence to back it up. In terms of it's just, it's undeniable. And thank you for that, because the 18 plaintiffs, it's, I'm a solo practitioner. I cannot handle more than that.
It's like David against Goliath, isn't it? So you are standing up, and I haven't read, I have to admit, not all the 125 pages of the main claim, but I read carefully the introduction and also the part on the TSDB, and it's just, wow. Yeah, and also the responses to the motions and requests for having more time by the DOJ, which is ridiculous. They even don't meet the deadline, although they have unlimited funding and the largest law department in the world, right? So, wow to you, and I'm pretty sure
Thank you.
God is on our side, right? So, um, whoever has a chance to look into Anna's work, this is possibly most of the most brilliant she has ever done. And Anna also has an education from, was it in Columbia?
Yeah, I went to Columbia. I went to Columbia College in the city of New York. And then I did a law school in Puerto Rico. And then I did a master's of environmental law at Vermont Law School in South Royalton, in Vermont. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And you brought the largest polluters environment
I did.
violation
I did a
success.
class action. That's how I got in trouble. That's how I started to get in trouble, because my heart is for disenfranchised community, environmental law, justice communities, and that's how I started to get in trouble. Getting not in trouble, but getting targeted. But today, I can say, I wouldn't do anything differently, because I am so happy to be doing what I'm doing right now. I am grateful to have been placed in this moment in history to help so many people that are being tortured and that suffer so much. I feel privileged and I feel honored to be doing this.
Amid a lot of suffering, So you are a stellar legal scholar anyway. You have been very successful in your career anyway, and now you are introduced or planted in our movement and knocking it off, really. Yeah. So to everyone, even though our names are not on the motion or claim yet, this is a breakthrough strike. Yeah. So the evidence, 80% is valid evidence, right? So when this goes through, this will be open the floodgates to bring all our cases to justice, right? The idea is just to demonstrate and to get this message across. This crime is going on, and as soon as we have one, how do you call this? One
Judgment,
one sample case, then of course we can move in with our cases, right? Okay. This is number one, even though our names are not that. This case is it's the spearhead, isn't it? The spearhead. So, and also for the international ones, sometimes we feel a little bit behind. We are not US, but still, first of all, this crime is mainly organized from the US, right? So the FBI is the international gatekeeper to keep this all a secret and not getting any cracks in. So to have this watertight, FBI is a gatekeeper. So when there's a breakthrough in the US, this will have shockwaves to law enforcement around the globe, right? So mainly originating from the US. And in another case also, the organization of these weapon systems, right? So nowadays we have all the chances to get evidence, and technical measures targeted justice website is brilliant with explaining how this works. They use cell towers and satellites. So nowadays, science is so strong, and also the patents which have been established, we can get evidence. Possibly the best evidence in the field is also, Len, you have medical confirmation, Havana syndrome, on a civilian case documented, right? There are also other measures which relate to the frequencies, yeah? They're not attacking us with nothing or air. There are frequencies which can be measured, and then there are all kinds. So from the frequencies, it can be established which weapon systems are in place, right? And this also, the weapons abuse leaves marks on my body, right? So there are marks in straight lines, right? Core, neck, ligaments, all over the place, right? So very clear marks through which they access all the time, clear marks, straight lines or diagonal, which are linked to the nerve ends, right? So, and these can be measured. So in my case, you may want to consider Amy's Audio's subliminal messages as well. That's a registered business in Florida. And this was also a milestone in my case, right? So, and it was clearly documented. My torture sessions, they are hosted in Florida. So I try to live on 5 continents. Yeah, I'm from the UK. I try to escape with this torture, went to my home country to stay there, and it followed there, right? So how are they doing it? It was impossible. He could possibly travel along with me and having his devices. So this was somehow differently, right? Okay, so 5 continents. It has been measured and established. This is hosted in US Florida. So this is to say why US is so important, right? That's where the FBI, the criminals, are headquartered, and also the system. Yeah, Elon Musk is big on this. He provides with Neuralink, he provides the satellites for many of so they use, of course, different. Some are more into cell towers. In my case, it's satellites and airplanes, right? So, but this is again a message to international TIs. Len and Ana are from the US, so I'm speaking here for the international part. Why this is so important. Once this is solved for the US, then we will also be able to bring our cases to justice. All right. Apart from that, yeah, this lawsuit being incredibly important for the entire global community, there are also a few treaties which are international, which I would like to just mention briefly, so I can't share my slides right now. But number 1, there's a convention against torture and the Geneva Convention. Yeah. So 7C, that's on the Targeted Justice website. Geneva Convention clearly says using weapons on unarmed civilians are war crimes. Yeah. So this applies in our case, international. Yeah, don't be afraid if you're not US and not US law. Still, there are legal foundations covering us. This is number 1. Yeah, Geneva Convention and against torture, international. Then there's also a treaty for damage caused by space objects. Space objects. Yeah. So they use satellites, space weapons, or weapon systems. And so I'm not sure how far you want me to go now. Anna, on your desk is now another motion. So you have
No, I always have motions because that I'm going to have to be filing. But I totally, the people, the international TIs should know various things. First of all, even though FBI is the one that creates this list, most of the people in the TSDB are foreign nationals. They are not in the United States. We estimate it's 400,000 people in the United States, 6 million around the world total. So the biggest bulk of the TIs are outside of the United States. And it was my experience when I traveled to France and to Britain that the physical attacks there are ruthless. Absolutely, just more than in the United States, I can say. Maybe some people here have them worse than me, okay? The treaties in the lawsuit, we invoked the Treaty Against Torture and the Geneva Convention. And you're correct, the one on the satellites or the space, the damage caused by safe objects covers everybody around the world. So it is something that I think that the court will have to look into, because when we get to the point of connecting the dots with the program, right now we are at the backbone of the case, which is proving an unconstitutional, recklessly unconstitutional action by the FBI and its directives, putting innocent people from the United States and from around the world in a terrorist database. And that's what we need to first, once that is done, then we move on to doing the discovery as to how they go about, the torture, the psychological operations, the whole entire thing. But you are correct in saying the attacks come from the United States, and for example, Schriever's Air Force Base has the most powerful computer there is in the world. And that's where the United States Space Force is. It's a Air Force base without a landing strip. It only has a set of elevators.
How come?
Yes, because what they do is they manage the directed energy weapons. They don't have airplanes landing in that Air Force base. And from there in Denver, it's that most of these attacks are coming. So it's got to stop, because it's torture against humanity. And they are firing weapons at United States citizens and legal residents. And it's got to stop.
Absolutely. It's interesting you are saying it's the registration or is organized by the FBI, and most of those candidates are actually international. To get a few numbers maybe back into records here, I recall it's about 5.5 million. That's estimations by Targeted Justice, and about, was it between
300 to 400, between 300 and 400,000. But the nominations
US
in the United States, their legal attaches. One of the reports I read talks about how the legal attaches that the FBI has everywhere around the world send nominations, and those nominations are not checked for accuracy or for terrorist information. And that is written. Ana Toledo didn't say that. It's written in an Inspector General report that cannot be denied.
Let that sink in. Exactly.
Yes, a lot of innocent people that have never even fathomed applying for a visa to go into the United States are in that list because somebody put them there for retaliation, for whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so somebody nominated here in the UK or Germany or whatever sends it overseas to the FBI records, and then they whitewash or green light it.
Exactly.
Works, right? Yeah.
Without asking for evidence.
No regulation, no nothing. Yeah.
Well, the regulations are there, and they are supposed to observe the regulations, but these reports state that the regulations are not being followed. I didn't make that up.
So there would be regulations to...
Yes. Not that they are that stringent and that, but yeah, there are regulations. There are regulations and a criteria that is required. But what these reports say is that the FBI is not complying with that criteria. They're just, it's rubber stamping nominations. And nominations also come from private people. Private individuals can make a nomination.
Civilian operatives, yes, that's also very clearly stated in.
And that's clearly illegal. That's clearly unconstitutional, and it's still going on. But that's something that we will go down the line. Right now, we need the non-terrorists in that list to be removed because it's illegal. That's what we're demanding.
That's 97%, isn't it?
Yes, pursuant to their numbers, pursuant to their own reports.
Yeah. So if there are non-TIs with us, I think this is an important bit to take on board, the dimension of this organized crime, right? So between 300 and 400,000 in the US alone, and the bulk is actually international, which is about 6 million. Yeah, 6 million. And the procedure is just unacceptable. Somewhere in the world nominating it, passing it on overseas to the FBI records, and they just whitewash it. All right. So,
and a lot of it is in violation of people exercising their First Amendment free speech rights. One of my friends published a book about this nefarious character in Puerto Rico, and within a week or 2 weeks, she was hearing B2K, and it was just
yes,
yeah,
extremely quick.
Extremely quick. So these are very powerful people with access to power, and they put her there. She's been twice in a mental hospital, and she's not mentally ill.
Of
She's
course
just
not.
listening to. She
I
has
hope not.
B2K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where there are many patents on that, right? So even the UN has a document on their page which shows all the patents. So that would also be interesting to show, but it may be beyond the scope we have set for this session. Yeah,
It's atrocious. In UK, they are forcing people to take injectable medication, and if they don't take the medication, they are forced into a mental hospital. I
which
have one TI like that
which
writes to me.
which is kidnapping. It's worse than prisons. In prisons, you have at least a sentence for a particular time. Hospitals, institutions, they can lock people up forever and drug them, as you say, inject them. Yeah. So this is outrageous. The scale of this organized crime is just mind-boggling. All right. Interesting. You also acknowledge that the torture or the weapons abuse internationally may, in some cases, even worse. So I would like to add to that. I'm also in touch with some German friends where I feel Germans, that's, well, many may know Eastern Germany. They had Stasi, which is national security, secret police. And interesting enough, it was like 20,000 or in the end. So when the border came down, Eastern Germany, then all the Stasi, so national security, secret police operatives, where did they go? They still were with authority somewhere, right? So these Stasi idiots, they are still BND, so that's equivalent to maybe GCHQ in the UK. I'm not sure whether it's FCC. So these Stasi people engaged, they are very much spearheading this thing, right? So stalking, observing, and then of course torturing, and they are so evil. I mean, there may also be a reason why Nazis, the Holocaust was on German terrain, right? So somehow they like following orders, and may also be something cultural. So they go all in, right? And maybe I could just share one example or two examples. I'm in touch also with a German friend, and one lady, she's running one of the best websites in the German field, and she is irradiated so badly. They hit her hips all the time that the bones dissolved, and she needed a hip replacement. And doctors and hospitals say they have never seen anything like that. And then she has to go back, and she has been very, so that's Ursula Jazef, for the German friends, if somebody is listening, right? Opfer-Strahlenfolter. She has an excellent website. So, and she's writing to also people in Congress and media, and also with police organizations, law enforcement organization on the national level. Yeah, she's very successful. And then she wanted to knock off a flyer initiative, right? And it was prohibited. So she was not even allowed to distribute flyers on this, right? So I'm, of course, I don't care about regulation. All my perps, they get some information about this crime, and 97% on the terrorist. So I don't ask her. But of course, she's very accurate, like many Germans are. So this is
Well, let me tell you, you should know this, and she should know this, and we need this information. The United States has a duty to protect German territory. After World War II, it is my understanding there is a treaty that the United States promised to protect Germany forever, and that obviously entails not doing directed energy weapons attacks on them, right? And that's what they're doing. So I have asked Harold, which is with ICATOR, to try to get me this treaty, because that is one of the very important legal authorities that we need to bring to the attention to the court, that the United States has a legal duty to protect the German territory, because this was a treaty that was entered into after World War II. So they even have a greater protection than the rest of the people in Europe, and they're getting more ruthless attacks because the burns and the attacks are just outrageous.
And a few friends who are not with us anymore, right? So there was one young chap who was 32, yeah, and he always showed up, a very peaceful candidate, right? And you could see he was suffering so much from Berlin and other places. He was with us with the protests on the road and meetings. And recently, so this is just 3 weeks ago, he was found in his home, not alive anymore, right? And so many others. So how do we notice? And Facebook, they're not responsive. And yeah, so this is horrific, really, what they do to German friends, right? Maybe also more on international note. Another lady, so this was UK, she found our conference, the ICATO conference from Liverpool. There were frictions in the health system, right? So UK, you mentioned the abuse with the institutionalization, right? But there are also other health issues, right? And she pointed this out. She has a son, and there were some things, and she has a huge audience listening to her. She's very credible. And after the second letter to Boris Johnson, as you say, usually authorities, it takes ages to get something across, right? After the second letter, very, very soon, she was attacked with these secret weapons, yeah? So this is also to show where this comes from, right? So some were at the top of the government, they use this deliberately against whistleblower, against activists, those who are pointing to misconduct or frictions in the system, right? And then they go after them. So UK, Germany, it's horrific what they're doing. And yeah, so I'm glad you're saying this US treaty or protection by US to especially German ones. This is also something I learned. I learned in from the ICATO conference. Listening to you is always so worthwhile. So worthwhile.
Thank you.
Other than that, I mean, time is really flying.
I know time is flying, but I don't want, Len, do we have do I have 3 minutes to say something?
You do.
I do. Okay. Do. Well, I didn't think we were going to gravitate to Germany, but before I learned I was targeted, I've gone through a lot of terrible things in life, but I always kept on going. And the one tool that was really useful for me was this little book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he says here, and this is so applicable to us targeted individuals, because he mentions he was a survivor of concentration camps. He's a psychiatrist, and he made a difference. He realized that the people that survived were those that had a meaning, that had something to look forward to, that had a purpose in life, that despite the atrociousness of what was surrounding them, they still could close their eyes and imagine a tomorrow where they would be with their families and they would be happy. And he quotes Nietzsche. He says, he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. And he said that the people that died in the concentration camps died less from lack of food or medicine than from lack of hope, lack of something to live for. And then he goes that, life is not about pleasure, as Freud believed, or power, but a quest for meaning. And forces beyond your control, which is this atrocious program, can take away everything you possess except one thing: your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. You cannot control what happens to you in life, but you can always control what you will feel and do about what happens to you. And that's why I have to relish in that all of us are failed experiments, because we have chosen not to go the route that they had chosen for us, but rather, in spite of the terrible things that we've gone through and targeted individuals go through every day. They choose to survive and fight back and look forward to, and I just urge everybody every morning to wake up and close their eyes and say, just picture a life without gang stalking, life without Jew attacks. And it's going to happen soon. It's going to happen this year. We're fighting for it, and together we can accomplish it. So that's just what I want to say.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was so inspirational. And thank you, Anna, with the double N, for the international perspective. We targeted individuals in this country sometimes forget that we are the minority, that the majority of targeted individuals live outside of the US and suffering greatly. And no pressure. We in the US will fight it. Anna, I know you're dedicated to this cause, so am I. I have been diagnosed with Havana syndrome. I am now on disability with the diagnosis of Havana syndrome. The medical profession knows how to diagnose directed energy attacks, and the government needs to stop covering it up. It's an existing technology, and it's got mixed up with this unconstitutional, totally blatant disregard to very fundamental rights in this country and all over the world. So we will be bringing you these updates. I pledge you that I will not stop fighting until we all free. Anna, both Annas, I know you will join me in this pledge. So the listeners, I would like you to pledge whatever you can to the cause of fighting this evil. Targeted Justice v. Garland, TJV Garland is the hashtag, and I will post in the information to this video all the ways that you can contribute, that you can share this, that you can donate to the cause of fighting for your fellow citizens who call themselves targeted individuals. And the government is simply bullying us. This is what this language that they used in their filing is nothing but bullying and extremely derogatory. So if it can happen to us, it can happen to you. Thank you very much, ladies. You have been great, and I'm looking forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Len, also for your quote. It's never beyond hope.
Excellent. Bye.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, stop recording.